This is very exciting, ladies and gentlemen. Think about the successes we've had. Nobody knew the Federal Reserve was private 15, 20 years ago. I mean, maybe 1% of the public. Now it is beginning to become a majority. It's huge issues all over the news. They can't hide the fact it hasn't been audited in over 50 years. They can't hide the fact that it's an offshore private bank now and that it's been stealing all this money. They can't hide the fact that all the gold's gone from Fort Knox. They can't hide the fact that we've been shanghaied. There was a corporate takeover in 1913, and they slowly been expanding the takeover of the states and our society, and now they're figuring out we're awake to them, so they're just trying to steal everything at one time. And they think arrogantly that the public's so stupid that we're not going to bring them to justice. Well, we are going to bring the New World Order to justice, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm going to cover Bill to Audit Federal Reserve. Now has 207 co-sponsors. Steve Watson, Infowars.com, PrisonPlanet.com, Infowars.net. Key story that everybody needs to read and see. This is so exciting. And even if it doesn't pass this time, they only need like 11 more. Even if it doesn't pass, this has gone from when he used to introduce this 10 years ago. I remember interviewing Ron Paul in 1996 when he introduced these bills, when he first got back in Congress. He'd been there for one stint in the 70s. And he would have like 3 or 4 sponsors. He's now 207, and people are blowing their phones off the hook. And even if they say no and don't pass it, people are saying, wait a minute, we can't audit them, we can't question them, we can't find out what this private group that says it's above the law is doing. Here's Forbes and AP today. Congress subpoenas Fed over Bank of America deal. Here's AP. I mean, this is everywhere. Congress subpoenas the Fed. Before, it was this mind game trick of saying the Federal Reserve doesn't handle money. The Federal Reserve doesn't tell the IRS what to do. You just write your check to the Federal Reserve when you pay the IRS. The Federal Reserve's not offshore. The Federal Reserve's audited. All lies, all lies. Now they've switched to, yeah, okay, we're above the law, big deal. And people are calling their bluff. And now Bernanke isn't arrogant. The bankers aren't arrogant now when you see them before Congress. They are freaked out. And they all need to go to prison. And it's because I've been calling for them to go to prison, and so is Ron Paul on this show, that I'm getting death threats, dirty tricks, extortion, harassment. And I'm not going to get into it on air. It's just, believe me, folks, we are under attack, and it is intensifying. It is intensifying, so pray for us, support the money bomb tomorrow. Think of how far we've come just on this. And they've tried to pass all these blanket amnesty plans. Those all fail. They've tried to pass all these gun confiscation bills. Those are failing. And they always come back and fight back, but we're fighting back. We're finding our fighting spirit here. This is historical. So I'm going to get back into Congress subpoenas the Fed, the bill to audit the Fed, all that's coming up with Ron Paul. But the top story today was going to be what's happening right now with audit the private Federal Reserve. That is huge. That is historical. God knows what tricks they're going to play. Starting new wars, staging terror attacks, who knows, to get our minds off this. I mean, they're criminals. We're calling their bluff. They're con artists. It's a fraud. The government's illegitimate. It's not our republic. All we got to do is point this out and get the word out. They will fail. Police and military are waiting for us to have the strength politically so they can somewhat more safely come out and tell the truth. I say throw caution to the wind. Justice be done by the heavens fall, as I love to say. I am committed to this. The enemy would be completely defeated if all the real men and women out there would stop having their teeth chatter and their knees knocking and would commit to the cause of liberty 110% and sign your John Hancock on this new Declaration of Independence and Liberty against the technocratic eugenicist elite. But that's coming up. But I want to just tell you right now, you can read the documents. You can go to Infowars.com. In fact, go to Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com, guys. Punch this up on PrisonPlanet.tv for people. There are the documents. And I'm going to read this to people right now. Punch that up on screen. Government-issued weapons and equipment inventory form, and, of course, registering is always to confiscate, PDF, VFW district and post government-issued weapons and equipment inventory. Commanders. This has never been done before. Why is it happening now? I have been contacted by the USTACOM about government-issued weapons and equipment on loan to VFW posts statewide. The essence of our conversations centered on inventory of all government's weapons and equipment by each VFW post. while you may have had possession of this equipment for 20, 40, 60, or even 100 years, it still belongs to the U.S. military. In short, every VFW post will be needed to complete the attached form and send to the department. This form will then be bounced off the central database of all Texas VFW posts at U.S. Army TACOM to verify serial numbers of each item that has been issued. This is a very extensive list and goes back to before the VFW was founded. So if you have a cannon from the Spanish-American War, it's on the list. Weapons and equipment of but consist of but is not limited to rifles, pistols, mortars, artillery, tanks, vehicles, aircraft, missiles, aircraft carriers, etc. from any time period. I know there are posts that have weapons they inherited from another post when they combined or when some other post closed or donated to another post when the post could not and no longer maintain the items. Please do not try to hide this, as all weapons and equipment not accounted for will be reported to the FBI and BATF as stolen military equipment. The items will just be properly transferred to your district post. One of their favorite things BATF does at gun shows, if somebody sells a body armor or a helmet, something that's even theirs, they just arrest you. They just hate America. You see, the United States previously reveled in the fact that in Europe, read Thomas Jefferson, all the founders, in Europe, the people weren't even allowed to own swords, weren't allowed to own muskets, much less tanks and cannon. Tanks weren't invented until World War I, but you get my point. Now we have all this. It's pure Americana, pure liberty, libertà, that these weapons were served out when they were, quote, obsolete to the local militias that then the VFW grew out of. Homeland Security lists you as the #1 terrorist. I mean, in fact, when I finish reading this document and we show them the inventory form, search engine for folks out there in case they just now tuned in and are watching on prisonplanet.tv or never heard this show before, listening on the radio. Google for folks, veterans listed as #1 terror threat by Homeland Security. We'll show you the document because I know a lot of you are new and you're going to say it isn't real. Doesn't matter if it was in hundreds of newspapers and we broke it. Okay. I am hopeful that I will not need to remind anyone of the severity of punishment that can be administered or the legal bills resulting from individuals or elected officers, if on post property, of the post having possession of stolen military weapons, which the government gave them. We have till January 31st, 2009 to report the U.S. Army TACOM. July. We have until July 31st, 2009 to report to U.S. Army TACOM. Please submit your inventory list as soon as possible so I can mark your post district off our list. And see, this is about the bureaucracy of list of veterans and veterans reporting on themselves. Should you have any questions, please do not hesitate to call me. Thanks for your help on this matter. Dan West, Sergeant, USMC retired, Assistant Adjunct, Department of Texas Veterans of Foreign Affairs. This is the New World Order. Show them the inventory list. Click on the other document. Here's the inventory list for everybody out there. So you can list that 100-year-old, 150-year-old cannon that's spiked out front. And don't worry, the state of Texas is listing its cannons out front from the Texas Independence. Those things are like crosses to vampires. They hate our liberty teeth so much. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. So they give it to you, they push it, just like they tell the troops. Remember the 60-plus billion, it was 20 billion, then 40 billion, then 60-plus billion in pallets of $100 bills? And they would give every private 10, 20, 30 grand a year. They'd give colonels millions, generals untold millions, stolen loot. But later they'd say, now you're part of the corruption. If you report on any of this, it was being done by the White House, you're going to be in trouble. Well, this is how they're going to corrupt the VFW. Oh, you don't know where that rifle came from. Well, just agree to report on other members of the VFW that don't like the president. I mean, they admit in the Department of Homeland Security documents that go out nationwide, they're spying on veterans, gun owners. We're the #1 threat to their criminal activity. Let's go ahead and go to calls. I said I want to hear from people at VFW who've gotten this or who are veterans or VFW members. Okay? Roger in Missouri, you're on the air. Go ahead.